passion and love for that space. And so I was there for about 2 years. Prior to that, I worked at my alma mater, which is Cal State Fullerton, go Titans. I was in their auxiliary services division supporting their HR team. So that's also where I got my first foray into HR and recruiting altogether. So I was there for a little over 2 years as well. And now, of course, at Sherwin-Williams. A couple of fun facts. Again, I'm a graduate of Cal State Fullerton, and I do also love baseball games. So kind of as pictured here, my husband and I love going to games and really soaking in that environment, when it's baseball season. And then another fun fact, kind of in the middle there, I actually, my husband and I decided to get married without really an actual ceremony. It was a civil ceremony held at the parking lot of the Honda Center in Helena, if you are familiar with that. So that was at the peak of the pandemic, and it was a very interesting experience, but I was glad to be a little part of history there. So that's a little bit about me. And then in the latter slides, I will go ahead and talk about exactly what I support, what opportunities, that I support as an early talent recruiter here at Sherwin-Williams. Before I do that, I do want to go ahead and give you all an overview of Sherwin-Williams as a whole, right? And so I guess in the chat box, if anyone can tell me, what maybe your kind of initial thoughts about Sherwin-Williams. Have you heard of Sherwin-Williams before? What do you know about Sherwin-Williams? You can, if you guys want to drop like a word or a phrase, I'm just curious as to how much you guys know about Sherwin-Williams. Paint, yes, love that. Best paints, recognizable paint company. Yeah, that's essentially, what exactly, what it is really. Okay, yeah, paint, lots of paint, yeah. So that's good. And I'm sure, we have so many different stores. All in all, we have over 4,700 stores across the nation. So chances are you probably have had, kind of passed by one unknowingly, right? I know in my kind of area, there's at least 5 or 6, right? And I know before I assumed this role, I had heard about it. I just never really understood what exactly it did. So Sherwin-Williams, we were founded in 1866. So like you all said, we are a paint and coatings manufacturing company. And as of currently, we are at over 61,000 employees. In 2020, we did hit a revenue of 18.4 billion. So despite the pandemic and some of the shortages that are associated with that, we were still able to come out strong. And then you can kind of see the sales by geography. We do also serve our markets in over 120 countries, which is awesome. Now, under the 18.4 billion figure there, you can see kind of a pie chart. Really cool. It's kind of like in a paint can. And what we call 3 reportable segments. So I, as an early talent recruiter, support the Americas group, or TAG, and I can definitely, the next slide will kind of show a deeper overview of that and what that entails. At the bottom there, you can see that we have industry-leading portfolio of brands that we have accrued over the years, and so we are definitely a leading paint company, not just a paint company, but paint and coatings manufacturing company. And one of the advantages that we have is that we do also have our own supply chain. So, we oversee, the kind of the attaining of raw materials. We have our own research and development team. We take care of the distribution of the products to our customers. As well as manufacturing. So, we are definitely, definitely in tune in terms of how our products get distributed to our customers. So that's an overview of Sherwin-Williams. And our headquarters are located in Cleveland, Ohio. So that is where the headquarters are. But of course, when it comes to retail stores and different offices, we do have all of them scattered throughout the states. And we've also expanded recently to Europe and Asia as well. So that's an overview of Sherwin-Williams. Now, the next slide, if I can get it through. There you go. Just as I promised, I wanted to show you kind of a deeper overview of what the Americas Group is, right? What that is. And so what that is basically it oversees all of our retail stores. So the 4,700, over 4,700 stores that we have are under the jurisdiction of the Americas Group. And we do have over 3,400 sales reps who are, of course, responsible for our products and the distribution to our customers. We also have our transportation kind of overview as well. So delivery trucks, drivers, and then fun fact, in 2020, we did hire over 1,050 management trainees as well. So this is kind of essentially what the operations and logistics looks like when it comes to helping drive the success of our retail stores. So that is what the Americas Group is. And as an early talent recruiter, I do primarily recruit for our full-time management sales training program, as well as our management sales summer internship program. And I'd be happy to, again, delve into that deeper a little bit later. But hopefully you got a deeper understanding of Sherwin-Williams and then what I primarily support as well within our company. Some fun facts, we are part of the Fortune 200 Club, and we're definitely very proud of that. We also received a 3-time recognition by Forbes as Best Employer for New Grads. We do promote a very inclusive work environment. So 1 out of 3 management trainees identified as women. And this is the next fun fact is something that I like to kind of implement in any of our messaging or when I, kind of talk to student candidates. Our CEO, John Marquez, started out his Sherwin career as a management trainee. So he's dedicated over 30 years of service to Sherwin-Williams. And, it's definitely a testament to how much we really invest in career growth and upward mobility when it comes to our employees. And so, that is essentially what our company is all about, right? Really investing in our employees and really believing that employees are what drives, it's the focal part of driving the success behind our business. So that is a culmination of all of our fun facts here. All right, and then again, as promised, I wanted to kind of just delve into what I recruit for as well as the locations I recruit for. So management sales training program is our full-time training program geared towards recent graduates who are really looking to take the next step of their career in management and who are interested in a thriving industry. It is open to all majors, and we do recruit on a rolling basis. So there isn't necessarily an application deadline for this, but we do also hire nationwide as well. So if you are looking at different locations, maybe outside of California, we do have opportunities outside of that. And then we also have our management sales summer internship program open to all majors as well. This is geared towards current sophomores or juniors interested in maybe, kind of testing the waters of a management career for yourself. It is in the course of 10 weeks from June to August, and hands-on training in one of our designated training stores, same as the management sales training program, which is in the course of 6 to 8 weeks. And, really, again, testing the waters of, what a management career could look like for you. For the summer internship program, we are actively recruiting for our summer 2022 interns right now in the fall season, and we'll be recruiting up until about May. So, just wanted to throw that out there for any current sophomores or juniors interested in an internship opportunity, kind of focused on sales and management. Locations, I essentially have, of course, the whole list right there. So we do separate kind of our region into what we call districts. And so these are all the districts that I recruit for. And again, if you are looking primarily opportunities for, within California. For any of the opportunities that I recruit for, I'm happy to speak more about them with you. Outside of California as well, the last 4 are recently added to my list, so feel free to also reach out to me for any questions regarding that. But I did want to go ahead and just provide an overview of what I primarily recruit for, as well as their locations. All right, moving on. So as per kind of what I had mentioned before, I wanted to also speak on resume tips and tricks, resume building 101, to really help with maybe enhancing your resume if you're in the middle of proofreading or kind of looking for different ways to further build your resume. This would be a great workshop for you. So hopefully that you can take again, some knowledge out of this presentation today. But essentially, we'll kind of start with speaking about the resume breakdown and then really getting into detail with each section. So, header, objective statement, education, work experience, involvement, skills, and certifications. So when it comes to header, main thing is just making sure that your name is bold and it's in a larger font size. So this may be a lot, this sounds straightforward, but sometimes we do come across resumes where the names are hard to see or identify. And so you just want to make sure that, it's bolded, it's easy to read, it's front and center, and that, it is, distinctly noticeable, compared to the other text. With address, you can list school and permanent address or single address. For address, I know that typically, it's because of safety issues, you may not want to put your whole address on there. So I would recommend just putting the city and the year, and that should do it. And then phone number, email. So your contact information, again, should be easy to identify. Contact information as well as your name are 2 of the most important things that really will set essentially the tone of what the who the resume is, and essentially the identification of that. And so being able to just make it easy to read and easy to identify, I think are 2 of the easiest things that you can do, but you can be surprised at how overlooked that also is. And so keeping that at the forefront would be a great place to start. And then should I use an objective statement? So this is optional and can sometimes be vague or take up valuable space. Now, if you do utilize one, just make sure that you include what you're seeking, when you're available to start, and essentially some of the strengths that you can bring to the role. So essentially, if you're going to use it, be specific about it. And if you think that it's just going to take up space, it's not necessarily geared towards a specific role or a company, chances are you don't need it. It really just, all it does, will take up white space that you may want to, utilize for a different section or to expand on a section. So it's really up to you, but just know that, if you are to use an objective statement, just to be specific about what you're trying to say or what you're trying to portray. So that's essentially the header and the objective statement sections. Education. So high school is not necessary if you are attending college as of right now, which I think everyone is. And so, it's not necessary to add high school in there. Now, in terms of college, of course, include all of your college degrees. That does, of course, include your, community college, 2-year colleges, technical colleges. Be specific with it. University name, degree / major, what's your expected graduation or graduation date if you've already graduated, add your GPA, and then scholarships, dean's list, and study abroad. So any academic achievements are definitely welcome, and you should definitely incorporate that into this section. Now, if this is your first job out of college, generally speaking, the education section should be listed first. Now, after your first job experience, is usually before the education. Now, this isn't going to be necessarily a make or break in most situations. However, that's kind of the general order when it comes to, your first post-grad job versus after your first job. Now, for multiple degrees, we generally advise that you list it in reverse chronological order. So the most recent to least, the most recent at the top, and then trickle down to the least recent. All right, experience. So generally, you list your most recent experience to oldest experience. So again, similar to your degree order. Other options showcase relevant experiences first. So maybe leading with a summer internship on your resume, even if it ended, and you're currently working part-time while in school. So, whatever your area of focus is, and, whatever maybe roles that you've held that directly correlate to what you're studying, maybe you want to lead with that, right? And especially if this is an area that you'd like to continue, for your career post-grad. Section titles. I personally love seeing section titles, and especially when it's bolded and easy to read, because it shows me that, this candidate is, on top of it when it comes to organization, and it's just easy to identify each section and what the content, what I'm looking for in terms of content. So and again, it offers flexibility with order of experiences, so internship, professional experience, related experience, and additional work experience. If you don't have all of the different types of experiences, that's completely fine. But using those section titles to at least help the employer recruiter identify which section it is, or which roles these are correlating to, that's a huge help, organizationally, and just being able to be easily identifiable. With experience, make sure to include your name of the company, position title, length, month / year is really the most, I think, general or widely accepted. So, example is right there, January 2016 to August 2018, city and state, and then at least 3 bullet points description of job duties and tasks. So, for this, and we'll definitely in the later slides, we'll kind of talk about how to enhance this section in terms of, what you might want to add in these bullet points, and what you want to focus on to catch the attention of the recruiter or the employer. But at least 3 is generally advised for each role or work experience. Now, in terms of, the types of experience, it can consist of full-time and part-time jobs, internships, practicum, field and cooperative education, volunteering experience and job shadows, and then study abroad or athletics. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that is, again, full-time or part-time, something that's ongoing. It can be, again, an internship, paid or unpaid, volunteering experience. A lot of people overlook that, but especially if this is relevant to your area of focus or maybe your target company or role, definitely add it. And then study abroad or athletics as well. This really all shows how well-rounded of a candidate you are. And, outside of maybe your academic achievements or the jobs that you've held, it also shows that you have other interests outside of, work or school. And again, that adds to kind of the diverse skill set that you can bring to a company, or again, just really how well-rounded you are as a person, as an individual. So yeah, that is the experience section. Okay. So I love this slide because this is essentially what I really love to focus on when I'm proofreading my resume, or when I'm, of course, reviewing resumes, right? you've all heard of strong action verbs, right? Don't say, worked in this section. Say that maybe generated X amount of customers in this section, right? It's really about, using strong action verbs to talk about, what the role entailed. So start each line with an action verb, present tense if currently employed, past tense if no longer employed, and then vary your choice of action verbs. The important thing here is to tailor the skills and experiences to the position, focus on achievements versus tasks. This is very important. When it comes to bullet points, you want to make sure that you're not just listing out each task that you've completed. You want to make sure that you bring what kind of results, right, that you were able to accomplish out of the tasks that you were assigned, right? Bringing quantifiable results to the table. And so just making sure that you focus on that versus just listing each task out that you've done. Being concise while providing enough detail. This is definitely I would say it's probably one of the most difficult things because for most of us, we just want to write everything that we've done with this role, right? We don't necessarily want to cut corners. We just want to make sure that we portray the best, our best, essentially our best intention of what we did in the role and go from there. But being able to be thorough while being concise, I think when it comes to action verbs, they do help with that, and they definitely say a lot more than just using regular action verbs where you're just essentially listing out the tasks instead of talking about what exactly you did with those tasks. And so action verbs, again, they do matter, and being using a varied palette of them will definitely take you farther than just stopping at regular just action verbs that we all kind of know and we all kind of use in regular speak. But going back and kind of seeing what action verbs you can kind of enhance and seeing what other words you can use to really diversify your not only your language, but then also essentially kind of talk more about what the role entail, I think is a great practice when it comes to making edits and really overall enhancing your resume. So that is the action verb slide. Again, one of my favorite slides to talk about because there's just so much more, so much you can do with it. And it's also, I would say, probably one of the most fun areas when it comes to proofreading. I don't know about you, but I think that's definitely something that I've learned over the years. And yeah, so that is this slide with experience. And then involvement. So really, there's so many ways you can showcase your involvement, especially when you're in your undergraduate career. It's really kind of showcasing how involved you are. Are you utilizing the resources given on campus to be able to not only enhance your college experience, but also benefit you in terms of future job search, building connections, expanding your network. And so ways that you can showcase your involvement, campus activities, of course, are so many, right? Sports, intramurals really showcases how, how much of a multitasker you are, how much of an effective team player you are, because most sports you work in teams, right? Greek life, of course, and there's of course so many different leadership positions you can hold in Greek life, volunteer orgs, leadership roles that can apply to really any sort of different, on-campus involvement, student government, campus job, right, work study, studying abroad, and then honor societies as well. So not only showcasing your accomplishments, but also your involvement and the different ways that you've been able to achieve that is a great way to really, again, showcase how well-rounded you are as a candidate. And then just reiterating that leadership roles are great to see, right? It's, if you were at a campus job and you transition into maybe a lead assistant or something that requires more responsibilities, maybe overseeing employees or helping train new team members. That's something that is great to add because it shows the level of responsibility that you were able to hold, but also essentially the results that you were able to achieve when it came to how well you accomplish or encompass the role that you were given. And then 2 to 3 bullets can be helpful to include, but not required. So again, really up to you as far as how you want to expand on your different involvement, but about 2 to 3 bullets, feel free to add. Otherwise, you can just go ahead and kind of, showcase what you've exactly done in just maybe 1 bullet. That's fine too. All right, skills. So general rule of thumb is, only put them if you have them. Make sure that if you do put them, you put them appropriately, right? Spelling industry specific skill sets correctly and capitalize where appropriate. So example, with the JavaScript, making sure that you spell that correctly. If you're including any portfolio links, make sure they are up to date and ready to view. Again, it's really about being, prepared, and even when it comes to just technical issues, you just want to make sure that you minimize any errors or any situations where you're not able to, allow them access to anything that you'd like to showcase further. Make sure to include the date if it's associated with a certificate, and then highlight fluency in other languages. This is a great one because it's bilingualism, and of course outside of bilingualism, if you are able to speak more than 2 languages, that's awesome as well. It's a great asset to have overall, but especially when the role requires it or prefers it, you want to make sure that you highlight it in your resume. To apply this to the opportunities that I recruit for our full-time management sales training program, we do have a preferred qualification when it comes to, are you able to speak fluent Spanish? So, and that correlates to, our customer base, just having a lot of customers that are Spanish speaking, where English may not be their first language. And so being able to break down that communication barrier and, be able to effectively service our customers. And so identifying those skills, within our potential candidates is going to be crucial, right, to be able to service that customer base. And so when it comes to reviewing resumes and pointing out if they have the skill that we're looking for, this is a great section to add the fluency in your languages. And I would go so far as not just being fluent in Spanish, but what is the level of fluency that you possess as of right now, right? That's going to further showcase kind of how, of course, fluent you are, but how useful that skill can be in the specific role that you're applying for. So that's the skill section. So generally, just overall resume dues, 1 page is recommended typically. Now, of course, if you are into 10 plus years of experience, then the story might be a little bit different for you, but generally speaking, keep it to 1 page. And going hand in hand with that, keeping it simple and easy to read, right? That's really number 1 tip I would give to students. And I know it's obviously easier said than done, but that's why we always need to have a proofreading eye when it comes to resumes. I always say resumes are a work in progress. You're never going to see a perfect one. However, you will see a resume that is perfect for that specific role or for that specific area or industry, right? Being keeping it simple and easy to read is one of those things that should be, never overlooked. Use a professional font, 10 to 12 point size. Use appropriate margins, no smaller than 0.5 and no larger than 1 inch. And then have adequate spacing between sections. Again, as you are proofreading and editing and kind of seeing ways on how you can enhance your resume, this will kind of come as second nature. Every resume is different visually, formatting wise. And so, I wouldn't necessarily always keep it to one specific template. It's okay to use different templates. Just make sure that you are aware of consistency and making sure that, the things that need to be easily identifiable, like your contact information, your name, section titles, are appropriately done. As long as you have that, I would say just have fun with it, right? There are so many different templates out there. If you just search on Google, you go to your career center to ask for, kind of advice on how you can enhance in terms of, format and layout. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily, keep it to just one specific template that continue to use. If you are comfortable with that, then that's completely fine. But there is some, when it comes to resumes in general, there is some flexibility as far as how you can, really enhance it. Of course, proofread and edit. If you need someone else to review it, I would say that's a great idea to do so. I think a fresh pair of eyes or two is always great to be able to, have a fresh take on what can be done to make it even better. And then again, don't forget, this is an evolving document, right? It will grow and change with your career. That's just kind of the nature of things when it comes to your resume, when it comes to your career. There's always going to be twists and turns with your career, and so that is going to directly affect how your resume is going to look and progress throughout your career. So just being mindful of that, and kind of running with it, right? Some of the don'ts: avoid using pronouns such as I, me, my. No need to include references. Now, for this one, I think it's really up to the resume builder. I think that if a specific role calls for this, then of course you should add it. But if it does not have a note about including references, or if it's not necessarily stated anywhere, then there's really no need, because all it does is take up extra space that you can expand for either of the different sections that we talked about, right? Where it's more important, or you have more relevant information to include. So when in doubt and you don't see a need for it, go ahead and just avoid adding the references. Limit the clutter, right? That's again going hand in hand with being simple and easy to read, and you'll kind of know and gauge where the clutter is and how to identify that as you kind of work on your resume. Not making any misrepresentations about, of course, your education or any sort of personal information, right? I think that's self-explanatory. And then keeping any personal information personal, right? So just not including your SSN, age, sex, height, weight, marital status, photograph, all of that. Just general rule of thumb, keep that hidden. Do not expose that on your resume. Really keeping it strictly professional, right, with relevant information. All right, so this does mark the end of our presentation, and then after our Q&A, I'll definitely kind of delve into some resources to direct you to our careers page and things like that. But I wanted to kind of pause and see if you had any questions so far of what we discussed. Feel free to unmute or add it in the chat box. Anyone have any questions? And it doesn't necessarily have to be about resume building. It can be about Sherwin-Williams, opportunities that we're recruiting for, anything of that sort. No questions? Okay.
Yeah. Question. I'm not sure if you might have covered this in the beginning. I might have just missed it, but I was just curious how long you've been working at Sherwin-Williams and how has your experience there been?
Yeah. So I have been working at Sherwin-Williams since April of this year. So it's been about 7 months now. And so that's, as an early talent recruiter, and it's been great so far. I think that some of the key strengths that Sherwin-Williams portrays here is really the supportive team environment, the mentorships that you'll be able to gain, and being able to take advantage of the myriad of opportunities that are offered here at Sherwin-Williams. I know I talked a little bit about truly investing in the employees' growth. Well, over 90% of our leadership has grown organically within Sherwin-Williams. That means that they started somewhere here in the company as an intern, as a part-time, full-time sales associate. I work with a city manager on a regular basis who started off as a delivery driver in college and now, reached all the way up into district management. And so there are so many strong examples of these tenured employees who have really been able to expand their careers, more so than they've envisioned. So that's really the beauty of our company. Definitely something that you can achieve with our management sales training program as well. And I think along with that, our supportive team environment plays a big part in our employees continuing to grow and to expand their careers. So I was able to feel that from the get-go, and here I am now after 7 months. And there's so much to learn, of course, when it comes to the industry side. Prior to Sherwin, I really had no experience in the paint industry whatsoever. The only piece of knowledge I had was Sherwin-Williams is a paint company, just like you guys, right? It's really just about the recognition of the brand. My dad was a painter, so that's all really I ever really knew about paint. But it's been such a great learning experience, and you get to meet so many people who are so knowledgeable about the industry and are so happy to share that with you. So that's the environment that I got, that I've been able to really engage in, and it's been a great experience so far. Thanks for asking. Okay, so Kelvin asks, how do you feel about resume layouts? I hear some people like unique, artistic, and colorful resumes, while others prefer standard and formal formats. This is a great question, and I think it definitely speaks to the specific industry, right? Industry or area of focus that you're looking at. And that's why it's so important to tailor your resume to what the industry standard is, what the standard format typically is for that industry. If you're going into more of a creative industry where it's you're able to showcase more of that those creative ideas, or where you can kind of expand on that side, then by all means, using color, using a different format, also, of course, researching what the industry standard looks like, I think is, a great idea. I think it's also critical to be able to do your research and kind of see what the standard is and go with that. Now, standard and formal formats, that's going to be typically what's advised, right? Because generally speaking, we want to make sure that it looks as professional as possible. But, I think aside from that, when it comes to the specific industry that you're looking for, a target company that you're looking for, and it kind of skews maybe more of casual work environment where maybe it's more of a startup feel, maybe it's in a creative it's a creative industry, right? Maybe in art or maybe graphic design, whatever the industry is, I would tailor it to that, and then see if you are able to kind of expand your limits on creativity. So that's kind of how I would answer that question, Kelvin. How do I personally feel about resume layouts? Well, with the opportunities that I recruit for, typically it is more of that standard formal, format. But again, it's not going to be a make or break if someone comes in with a purple resume with, highlighter pink font or like highlighter pink lettering, right? It's mostly about the content and kind of the experience that I'm looking for. Now, of course, consistency, being easy to read, using appropriate margins, using section titles, and making sure that your contact information as well as your name, are easy to read as well. Those things, are definitely more standard to kind of, to kind of assess, right, based off of your resume, aside from the other, added enhancements. So as long as, those are good to go, then I really, don't necessarily see a problem in, again, expanding a little bit of your creativity. But I would say for me personally, and the opportunities that I recruit for, I do prefer more of that formal format. Now, of course, outside of our industry and more maybe creative, industries, again, it would be based on, the industry standard and what they might be looking for, and going from there. So hopefully that answered your question. But let's see. Okay. And then Kai asks, what advice would you give to students in regards to how to network with recruiters? So yeah, that's a great question too. So in terms of networking, there's, of course, at this state, day and age, there's just so many different ways because of how expansive technology is. There's so many different platforms that you can utilize as well. I think the first and foremost thing, which we can do a whole presentation on, but of course we're going to spare you of all that because we just went through a presentation and it'd be just too much information here. But having a LinkedIn profile, right? I think that's definitely something that anyone can do. And especially as you are growing in your undergraduate career and maybe you're just starting to kind of build your network of connections, LinkedIn, right, is a very powerful tool to showcase who you are, what your career interests are, what you've done so far, and what, you're looking in terms of next steps. So LinkedIn is a great way to network with recruiters. Now, when it comes to campus events, right, virtual events, all of that, especially during campus recruiting season, aside from just attending the events, reaching out to the recruiters that you've met, asking for their email, and maybe sending them a thank you email or asking them a question about a career topic or about their opportunities are also a great way to put yourself at the forefront because, as you know, recruiters meet with dozens and dozens of students during those 2 months of recruiting season, right? And so it's easy to just kind of, forget the names or, people that you've met at a certain event. But, I would say following up and just kind of reiterating who you are, what, where you met with, the recruiter and, sending them a quick thank you and maybe a question or two about the company or about the opportunities that they're recruiting for, I think is a great way to stand out in a sea of candidates that we meet on a regular basis. So I would say those are some of the key ways that you can definitely network. But again, I would say LinkedIn, I would put that kind of at the top of everyone's priorities. If you haven't started one, do it today. It's easy. Well, I would say straightforward. I wouldn't say it's easy, but there's so much information out there to really learn how to build one. And it's a powerful tool. It's a great networking tool to start building your connections, and of course a great way to also start your job search as well, especially post grad, right, when you're looking to snag that first post grad job. All right.
I have one question.
Anything else, you guys?
I had a question. I actually have two questions. Can I ask them?
Yeah. Is this Kelvin?
Yeah. This is
Okay.
Kevin. So I just want to ask, like, when you have these open periods, are there any benefits to turning in your resume like early?
That's a great question. Now, I think in terms of timing as a whole, I'm just going to use the campus recruiting season just as an example because I feel like it works the best when it comes to when essentially can you turn your application so that it gets to the top of the pile when it comes to recruiters reviewing the resumes. So in terms of turning your resume in early, I would say it depends. I think that if a job is posted and you are the first few that apply, there is of course a greater likelihood that you may be contacted for the first interview. Now, of course, it does depend really largely on how much of a good fit you could be. So it's really more about the content of your resume than really the timing of it, Kelvin. And I think for some roles it may be crucial to apply early, to turn your resume early when it comes to campus recruiting seasons. most jobs would have specific deadlines. So meeting that deadline way ahead in advance is always a great idea, right?
Yeah.
Being, definitely, on top of the crowd. However, I really think that it's really based on, what the job is, what the role, is looking for, what the recruiter is looking for, what the minimum requirements are, what preferred qualifications are. Essentially, are you going to be a good fit for this role? So that's really not going to, the timeliness of when you turn your resume isn't necessarily going to have a huge bearing on that decision, is I think what I'm trying to sum up. So that would be my take on that. But I would say, generally speaking, it's always a great idea to stay on top of your deadlines and to apply early. We all love to see that, employers love to see that. And it does put you kind of at a slight advantage when it comes to getting all of your deadlines in ahead of time, because especially during campus recruiting season, it can get crazy. It's also midterm season for a lot of campuses. So, it's juggling a lot of things on your plate. So if you're able to get that off and checked off, I mean, more power to you. But at the end of the day, it does matter, what your resume entails in terms of content and the experience, and of course, everything else that you bring to the table. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
And I had one more question.
Sure.
So when it comes to management position, I was just curious how much, how often are you working with numbers and spreadsheets and like general accounting tasks?
Yeah, that's a great question. So actually, I'd love to kind of speak on the full-time training program a little bit, and then I'll get into some of maybe the more technical duties of a manager, store manager, assistant manager. So essentially the full-time training program, again, geared towards recent graduates or those who are graduating at the very latest, May 2022, are eligible for application for the training, for the full-time training program. So what that exactly is, it's initial 6 to 8 week training program. It's heavy hands-on training in one of our designated training stores. So you'll be working with an assistant manager and a store manager to learn all about store operations, product knowledge, inventory management, merchandising, marketing and sales, so learning how to bring in new clients and open up key accounts, as well as our customers, understanding our customer base and how to build relationships with our customers. And so that is essentially what the training program will focus on. So building a very solid foundation in those key business skills. Now, after the 6 to 8 weeks, you once you're complete with the training program and you're ready to take the next step, you'll be potentially placed into one of our assistant manager roles, where you'd be fine-tuning those skills that you were exposed to at the training level, but also honing in on more of the supervisory aspect of the role. So, learning how to oversee the operational flow, handling employee logistics, training new team members, kind of really being that right hand of the store manager. And then as a store manager, which is the next potential placement, it would be essentially running and operating your very own multi-million-dollar paint store. So to answer your question, Kelvin, I believe also as an assistant manager, I think it starts at the assistant manager level, or you may have exposure to it. I think in terms of specifically accounting or bookkeeping, it's more about dealing with like the P&L side, or profit and loss. And so I'm sure there are financials involved with that. Each store has a certain level of profits or revenue that they have to make at the end of the year, whenever the reviews are handled. And so there are definitely numbers available. I don't know, of course, exactly to what extent, but as you progress throughout your management career, you will get more and more exposure to that. And that does also directly correlate to the bonuses that you'd be eligible for at the assistant manager level as well, and of course, the store manager level. So it would be more kind of regarding that instead of, I guess, kind of day-to-day bookkeeping, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Very thorough answer.
No problem. Thank you for the great questions. Any other questions so far? Okay, so just going to move on to the next couple of slides. I just have a couple more. So I did want to add a where to apply slide because I wanted to make sure that everyone had the link to our careers page. And then Kai, if you don't mind, if you can just add the top link. You don't have to actually add the second one because the second one is attached to the first. But the first link is the careers.sherwin-williams.com/home. So this is the home page of our career site where you'll be able to navigate a variety of different career paths that you can embark on here at Sherwin-Williams. So not just the management sales track, but there's going to be other sections where there are different areas of focus and interests. So please feel free to check that out and apply to any of our open job openings if you are interested. And then the second job site link is just a direct job search link to all of our open postings where you can kind of use filters to really hone in on what you're looking for. So at the bottom, I did add keyword. There's a couple of filters you can use, which is the location filter as well as the keyword filter. So the keyword, I did put, management sales training program or management sales summer internship, or anything else you'd like to explore as well. If you're not interested in that, that's fine. We have a variety of different opportunities outside of our management sales track, so feel free to explore. We do recruit nationwide for these two opportunities, so I do focus more on the West region, but again, nationwide, we do hire for both opportunities. So if California or maybe the neighboring states, you're not really looking into that, maybe looking into East Coast or whatever it may be, feel free to filter by your preferred location so you can really kind of narrow down your search and focus on what you're looking for. And then last but not least, would love to connect with you all. Of course, you can find me on LinkedIn. My email is up there as well, helena.kim@sherwin.com. So, feel free to reach out to me if you have any further questions about our presentation today, or any questions about Sherwin-Williams, about the management sales training program or summer internship program. I'd be happy to answer any and all of your questions. Also, if you want to chat about a career topic, that's, I would love that as well. So feel free to reach out to me. But otherwise, thank you all for joining me today. I really appreciate your time. And I'll go ahead and hand it off to Kai.
Thank you so much, Helena, for the fantastic presentation. It was really wonderful information. And thank you so much, UCR students, for joining us today. If you haven't done so already, please just ensure that you sign in. And I also dropped a link in the chat for the survey. If you have a couple of minutes, we would appreciate your feedback as well. So thanks so much, Helena, for joining us. And I hope that everyone has a great afternoon.
Excuse me.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Kai.
Helena,